I didn't see what he was yelling at. I didn't see the ambulance coming, but I remembered him yelling. That was the last thing I heard from him.
Imagine the unimaginable 8-year-old Landon Whitley endured the unthinkable after his father was killed in a vehicle accident and left 3 times clinically dead. He came back bearing a powerful message from Jesus that the entire world needed to hear. Other accounts include a little girl who, following a terrible injury, had a life-altering encounter with Jesus, and a high school football player who, after his heart stopped beating for 20 minutes, saw the face of God. These tales serve as examples of hope, faith, and the supernatural's power. We can gain knowledge from their experiences as we piece together their amazing stories, the messages they received from beyond the barrier of time, and the deep impact they had on their lives. Let's get started. Landon Whitley's journey beyond death. On a Sunday morning in 1997, 8-year-old Landon Whitley and his parents were on their way home from church. Their father, Landon, was immediately died when an ambulance struck their automobile at a major junction with such force. Landon, a small child, was left struggling to survive while strapped into the back seat. The heartbreaking truth that paramedics found when they got to the site was that Landon's heart had stopped. His death was clinical. However, that day would see Landon declared dead 3 times, this being the first. Even though he was revived, he repeatedly came dangerously close to passing away. But the medical staff's unwavering efforts saved him each time. Julie, his mother, could only watch in utter sadness and astonishment as her son's life was in jeopardy. Upon Landon's departure to Carolina's medical center, the medical staff presented a poor outlook. Julie was informed that even in the event of Landon's survival, his life would be permanently altered. His brain damage was so severe that it was unlikely he would ever be able to walk, talk, or eat by himself again. As a mother, could you imagine hearing those words? The loss of your husband, and now the possibility that your son would be forever altered, or worse, might not survive at all. Landon, who had been in a coma for 2 weeks, was able to wake up and reveal that he had survived without brain damage or severe disability. His doctors were amazed by his cognitive abilities. As he spoke, he shared that he had gone to heaven during his clinically dead days, where he saw his father and 2 siblings he instinctively knew were his siblings.
I knew that they were my siblings, even though no one had ever told me about them. Just being in heaven, I guess you know your own, or you know who everyone is.
Landon explained that in heaven, there is a connection that transcends earthly knowledge, and he knew who they were because he knew everything that truly matters. His most profound encounter came during his 3rd brush with death when he met Jesus. In a near-death experience, Landon met Jesus, who spoke directly to him, revealing a powerful and loving presence. Jesus spoke directly into his soul, revealing scenes from his life and others. He was told that it wasn't his time yet and had to return to Earth for work.
It was almost as if like a preview of a movie to where you only get to see certain bits and pieces of things. Jesus came to me and told me that I have to go back to Earth and be a good Christian and tell others about him.
Jesus gave Landon a message to share with the world. Tell them that I am real. Tell them that heaven and hell are real. Tell them that they have a choice. Landon knew this was a mission he had to fulfill, even if it would be difficult. This encounter transformed his mother, Julie, who had been dealing with the loss of her husband and son. Her faith was renewed by Landon's testimony, and her grief was tempered by the knowledge that her husband was in heaven waiting for her, and her son had been spared for a divine purpose. Julie and Landon shared their story of loss through a program called Grief Share, reaching out to those struggling with loss. They shared their experiences at churches and community centers, promoting hope and the message that there is life after death and Jesus is waiting for us. But Landon's story is just one of many. Each of these near-death experiences carries a message that is both unique and universal, a message that we all need to hear. Zach Clemens, the football player who saw heaven. Zach Clemens, a typical high school student, collapsed during a physical education class, causing him to be clinically dead for 20 minutes. Despite the efforts of paramedics, his heart began beating again, just as they were about to call his time of death. When he woke up in the hospital, he recounted an awe-inspiring and humbling experience. He remembered being in heaven, a place of light and love, feeling completely at peace. However, what stood out most was meeting Jesus, a figure of immense love and compassion. Zach felt no fear or pain, only an overwhelming sense of belonging. Jesus spoke to him in feelings, conveying a deep understanding of his life and purpose. Zach was told that it wasn't his time to stay in heaven, and he had to return and live his life according to God's plan. When he returned to the living, he was a changed person, no longer just a high school student or a football player, but with a mission to glimpse the afterlife. His humor and faith became his guiding lights, and he began sharing his story to inspire others to believe in the power of faith and the reality of the afterlife. Zach's miraculous recovery, despite the severity of his condition, was due to divine intervention. Mia's encounter with Jesus. Mia, a young girl, was struck by a tree branch during a family hike, causing her skull to fall and leaving her unresponsive. Her parents, Mike and Melissa, prayed for a miracle, and when Mia was taken to the hospital, the prognosis was grim. However, Mia's scream signaled her life. She was rushed into emergency surgery, where doctors worked for hours to repair the damage. Mia woke up coherent and responsive, and the doctors were stunned. She had made a full recovery without lasting brain damage. Mia's parents were amazed by her vivid dream, which she believed was a near-death experience. She found herself in a beautiful place, filled with light, where she met Jesus. Jesus told her it wasn't her time to die, and that she needed to return to her family. Jesus reassured her that she would be okay and would always be with her. For Mia's parents, this was more than just a dream. It was confirmation that God had answered their prayers. The experience strengthened their faith and gave them a renewed sense of purpose. They began sharing Mia's story with their church and community, hoping to inspire others to believe in the power of prayer and divine intervention. Mia's encounter with Jesus was not just a comforting dream. It was a call to faith and a reminder that life is fragile and we are never truly alone, even in our darkest moments. Bobby Sosa. Bobby Sosa, a tough-as-nails police officer, was an atheist who believed in what he could see, touch, and prove. He was declared clinically dead after a heart failure, but miraculously revived after 40 minutes without a heartbeat. During this time, he encountered Jesus, who shattered his atheistic worldview. He felt the weight of his wrongs and began to apologize to Jesus. Jesus showed Bobby scenes from his life where he had turned away from God, dismissing the spiritual as unimportant. Instead of anger, Bobby felt love and compassion from Jesus. He was told that it wasn't too late to change and that he had been given a second chance. He was to go back to earth, live his life in service to others, and spread the message of God's love. When Bobby regained consciousness, his wife, who had been praying by his side, was overjoyed. Bobby's experience led him to completely reevaluate his life and dedicate himself to sharing his testimony and spreading the message of Jesus wherever he could. His transformation from a hardened atheist to a devout Christian serves as a powerful reminder that no one is beyond redemption and that it is never too late to turn towards God. His story resonates with those who have struggled with faith, offering hope that even in the darkest moments, there is a path to the light. Conclusion. The remarkable survival testimonies of Landon Whitley, Zach Clemens, Mia, and Bobby Sosa are not only inspirational testimonies to a greater force, life after death, and the existence of Jesus Christ in our lives. They had come back from the verge of death with a deep message. Jesus is urging us to make a decision because heaven and hell exist. Such encounters serve as a reminder that life is a spiritual journey that transcends the material world and is more than just experiences of the physical realm. They also challenge us to consider our lives, beliefs, and purpose. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the extraordinary experiences of those who have seen the afterlife and returned with messages of hope and warning. If you found this video inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more videos that will uplift your spirit and strengthen your faith.